It's live.
It's live. Hey, friends. Do y'all know how often I iron? I iron every day. It seems like almost all day long, every single day. So I'm going to continue ironing while we gather. And Doug's going to give me his phone when he gets... Friends. Do y'all know how often I iron? Of course, I'm hearing myself. It seems like the volume is on. Do we have friends? Got it? Yes. Thank you. Okay, friends. Who all's here? I'm going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get here. I'm ironing. I don't know if y'all remember or not, but I took, I put these 4 blocks together. Oh, mercy, the way my brain thinks. Okay, so who else here? Aw. What is that? If you're here, say something on your comments, so I'll know you're here. Do you see people? There are 3?
I see 3.
Okay. So who's here? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I think it's 6 o'clock. I can't see a clock from here.
6 o'clock.
It is 6 o'clock straight up. Good. Everybody's beginning together. I'm so excited. I was just ironing these blocks. While we're gathering, I'll show you what I was doing. I had put these 4 blocks together. This is using the small picture window tool. And I had sewn these together to show everybody how they look. And it makes a chain. Oh, I did this wrong. Sorry. Here's the problem. With everything having to go a particular way, you have to make sure it's going that particular way, right? Okay. So I had all of these sewn together across here and across here. And I was walking by, and I've already done one quilt. I showed y'all last week. I feel like it was last week, or maybe the week before. This same exact pattern called True Lover's Knot. Yeah, it was last week, I think. And as this was hanging and I was getting ready earlier today, I glanced up and looked at it and thought, well, if I make a blue and white one, it's going to be just like the multicolored one. And I'm not sure I want a true just exactly the same thing, because that is my problem in life. Y'all know that, right? I don't like to do the same thing twice. If I'm going to do it twice, I want it to be slightly different. So I can say, but, here's another option. So anyway, these were all hung together, and I thought while I was sitting here waiting to make sure we were starting on time, I thought I'd just take them apart, which I did. But let me tell you what I decided. I've taught in the past the Snowball Concept, where you take a square and you put it across the corner, wherever it is. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if I snowballed each of these corners, and on this one put blue, and on this one put white. And then I would have a diamond that alternates. And I think that would be really cute. So I stitched all these together, and then I just took them apart. Because that's what I do. That's a designer's brain. Okay, we'll do this again. But wait, I don't want to do it the same way again. So there you go. There's another idea. I'll have to investigate later how to make that happen. Yeah, I need a place to hide them. Okay, thank you all for being here. Ooh, good. We have 9. Will you hand me my drink? So we're so glad y'all are all here. It's Monday. I hope you're having a marvelous Monday. We are. It's cloudy, and I don't even know what it's like outside because I barely went out. But Doug's been out working in the along the lake. We have a lake down at the bottom of the hill, and we have all these grasses that grow up. So he's been down there trying to trim that up. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. Once you get here, hey, Noelle, once y'all get here, pop in and say, I'm here, so I'll be able to give you a shout out.
They have.
Okay, good. I'm just not seeing it, I guess. Is something wrong? I'm not seeing it. Okay, well, I'll just trust that y'all have. Thank y'all. So I can't tell from this phone. Okay, so...
You want me to tell you who all's here?
Sure.
Natalie, Pat True, Pat Flanagan, Beth Johnson, Pam Fowler, Kathy Hughes, Pat Flanagan again, and Noelle.
Well, that's a huge crowd. Okay, will you take this and fix it so I can see that? See the comments? Okay, so it's Monday. I hope you've had a marvelous Monday. Y'all know that every single Monday I pray for you. I pray for everybody who watches live. And I also pray for everybody who watches in the future. I pray for your well-being. I pray for your health, wellness, and well-being, that you are blessed. So I have prayed over you today, and I hope you have all those things. If you have specific prayer requests, I want to know about them, and you can text me or send me a message, or however it is you want to do that. I would be more than happy to spend time each day praying specifically for anything you need. Okay, so going back to last week, I had a bunny quilt up that was the Dresden's, and I asked for some pattern testers, and I want to give a huge shout out to Beth Johnson and Kathy Hughes, who got the pattern, and some others did too, but both of them have responded with pictures. One of them had the whole thing quilted, and the other one had the top done. So, fast job, good job. And then I got some great feedback on the pattern, so I am so grateful for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so today I'm sort of going to do a trunk show, sort of here's what's happening. I have a friend who does this thing, or put out on the Christian Quilt Guild, which is I'm a part of. She put out what's under your needle, and I thought today, as I was trying to get ready and thinking about what I was going to talk about, I think I'll just talk about what's been under my needle and kind of show y'all what's going on in my world. I've had kind of a busy week, and it's been a fun one. Look. See my threads? Okay, so let me show you this. This is a tea towel do I need to move it closer, or you got it?
Well, I can move a little closer.
Okay, so this is a tea towel right here. Just like you get, y'all know, this is a Moda one. This is actually one by Robin Pickens. But Anita, my friend, she might even be on here, gave this to me recently, and I love it. I love this color palette. I love it. I love yellow and greens, and chartreuse green is one of my favorite colors in the whole world. One whole year, I just realized I didn't have enough of that in my stash, and Doug and I were doing some traveling, and of course, whenever we travel, we stop by shops and visit and whatever. And I decided on that trip, the whole trip was going to be collecting chartreuse green, like fat quarters or yardage if I found it. So I love this chartreuse color. I love a yellow green. Of course, I love all colors. But this is the calendar 2021. My birthday is on the 21st. This is the year, the plan that you make when you're young, that, Lord, I'm going to get this degree, and I'm going to get that degree, and then I'm going to work, and then when I'm 65, I'll retire, and everything will be happy, and then I'll just live my life. Well, of course, nothing goes, at least in my world, it didn't go toward that plan. That's not the way it works, which his plan is better than mine, but still. But this was the year I was supposed to retire, like, be done with it. Well, I retired at 57 is when I actually started my own, got out of corporate America. So this year is a big year for me. And I took this little tea towel. The lesson is you can, if it's fabric, you can quilt it. I put a border around it. Now the border is not the same exact white. It's a white on white. So it's got a print on it, but it blends well enough. It's fine. And then I wanted to make it just a slightly bit bigger and add a little bit of color. So I went with a yellow just because there's enough of the yellow around it. And then put it on my long arm and quilted it. And I wanted it to be a very dense quilt, quilted very densely. So I did that. I did it free motion. Because when they're little like this, the computer goes slower than I can go. So I did it faster than the computer could. And then when I got through, I used this multicolored pinks, like to pick up these tones around the edge. And I just am going to hang it in my room because I'm always looking for a calendar. So there you go. Well, I'm so happy everybody's here. So this is one thing that's been under my needle. The back of it, I just did in the yellow. And you can see the binding more on here. I love yellow in the springtime. Look at that cute little ladybug. Isn't that sweet? Okay, so on the back side, hanging, is this. So I'm going to show you, it's kind of like a trunk show. I told you it was going to be like a trunk show. So this is a piece of green woven fabric. It is not even 100% cotton. I have no idea what's on the back. Oh, I have cotton on the back. But I gave it to my sister one time. I said, I want you to, I gave her the green. And I said, will you please paint the face of a lamb because I want a lamb quilt to bring out at Easter time. And so I sent it home with her, and she painted it. And then I came back, and on my long arm, I have a foot that you can run yarn through, and as you're stitching, the yarn gets stitched down. So it's couching foot. Oh, and I love to play with that. So all of this is yarn. It's fuzzy yarn. This is paint. This is paint. Paint. But all of this is darker yarns. Does it look like a lamb? Y'all tell me. Does that look like a lamb from there? And then she put grass, a little bit of grass. And then later she said if she had known I was going to quilt it or cover it, she wouldn't have painted so much. But I think it turned out great. What I did was I quilted the grass. And then you see this? I wanted it to look like there was a wire fence in the background behind the grass, and it was just standing near the fence. It's one of my favorite little pieces. I just love it, especially at Easter time. So there's no reason for me to bring it out except it's Easter time. Okay, so another thing I've been working on, and I may have shown y'all this last week. Sorry, that didn't hang like I would. Have y'all ever seen this panel? I may have shown y'all this already. This panel came, so if you're taking notes, y'all need to know this. There is a shop, it's in Kansas, but they have a Facebook group, and it's called Faithful Remnants. And they have a buying, like on their page, they have a sub-page that you can go buy. And she buys, I feel like she probably buys out estate sales. It's probably a whole lot of what she does. But she gets fabric, and then she resells it. So she doesn't sell it for full retail. And it could be 80, like 82 or 80 or 96, 1996 or something like that. Well, she had one day, I saw this, and it was mixed in with some other stuff. So I got it for what, maybe $3 or something. And it's just this little panel right here. All this. And then I have to look at, see what I added. I had this border and this border. So now it's a veterans quilt. Y'all know I give away all my patriotic quilts. It seems like every time I make one, I give it away. So it's not laying real flat because I've got stuff behind it, I think is the problem. But this curved up corner over here is probably because I stretched the binding, but nobody can stretch one of the borders. But what I want to show you on this quilt is, can you see? Yeah. Can you see the binding right here? Is that visible on the couch?
Yeah.
See that? I want to show y'all this. Doesn't it look like, you see how it kind of pulls in? It's hard to tell up there maybe. But I wanted this to kind of pull this feel, right? And I want to show y'all. It looks, somebody said when they saw it, it looks like a rope. Almost like a rope hanging that edge. I want to show y'all, if you want that look on your quilt, you can, this fabric, you can find fabrics that are printed on the diagonal. So anytime that a fabric is printed on the diagonal, they make great bindings. Great bindings, because it does give that look of being like a rope. See how it gives that little rope feel? So anytime you're shopping and you see something that'll coordinate with what you're making and you want a rope, I mean, they come in all kinds of colors, but anytime it's a diagonal, when you have a project, it really just pops the edges. So I wanted you to see that because I have another quilt I want to show you. I just have to take this one down. It's okay, I'll just put it on the... Okay, thank you. Okay, so this one, look at this one, y'all. I taught a class not long ago that is the, will you make this turn on? I taught a class not long ago on log cabin blocks. And I cut some kits. And everybody put the kits together in class, right? And that is the block. Can you see that? Do I have it right? Oh, there it is. There's the block. And so in the class, we had maybe 7 of us sewing or something. And I had made a couple. Well, our friend Ann took all of those blocks home. Thank you, honey. Ann took all of those blocks home and then added to it. So I think maybe we sent 9 or 10 home with her, and then she made the rest. There are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 blocks here. And all she did was put the log cabin blocks together in this formation. But isn't that cool? So when I teach a class for that group, what we started doing, and I'm going to do it again next month, is I'll teach you how to make a log cabin, for example, whatever we're teaching. And I'll bring a kit for one, and when we all finish, we'll turn those in, and then we'll combine them to make a quilt. So then everybody gets to learn, and we get to make a quilt. Now, I just finished quilting this today. Here's the back. Maybe it's easier this way. There's the back. And it's just a very simple star, and then some loops, and some swirls, and another star. So it's a patriotic theme. But, so I have to bind it, and I'm going to take it to the meeting coming up. Not long from now. So I audition bindings, and this is how I do it. I just lay them. Can you see the rope effect, what that does on the edge? Now that, not that much will be showing, but that's how I audition bindings. I wrap it around, and then sometimes I just pin it in, just if it's up on the design wall, I pin it. So I can tell if I like it or not, because I will tell y'all, the best laid plans Sometimes I can mess it up, but I think that'll work just fine on this quilt. And I think that'll be fun. So here's another, patriotic quilt. Now, we give our quilts primarily to, obviously, veterans and then Wounded Warriors of Texas. But I don't think I told you last week. We gave one to the Wounded Warriors of Texas last fall. And his wife wrote me a couple weeks ago and asked me, this is the coolest story. And she said that her husband loves this quilt, and during Snowvid, he used it in his office and kept him really warm in there. And she was so grateful. And she has a son who is going to the Navy, and he leaves like June 22nd, I think was the date, right after he graduates from high school. And she was wondering if we had any other quilts that we could sell her. Well, we don't sell our quilts in that group. So I reached out to a friend, and I need to follow up. But we've got one that my friend has made that we're going to send to this young man just before he goes off into the Navy. And his dad is a Wounded Warrior. So what a family. That's just all I have to say. That is such a great family. So we love making quilts for our Wounded Warriors and our veterans both. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about, let me put this away, is I want to talk to you for a few minutes about dyeing fabrics. So, you may have seen that I dyed some fabrics during Snowvid. I used actually snow to do it. And I'm going to give you a real brief overview of how I do my dyeing. So I'll show you a couple of pieces. Here is a piece. When I dye them, and I've used a little bit off this, but when I dye fabrics, I want them to be very, I don't want them to be all the same color, right? So I want them to have a mottled look, or a watercolor look, or some dimension. So what happened here, in this green, I added it was a recipe that I put together, 2 dyes. So the way it works is, these are powdered dyes. I buy them from Dharma. They are, they look like this. I always write on the top because I keep them in a drawer. And what I did was I mixed 2 colors for this. And that little splotch was where the blue that I was using got a little heavy. But I love that. I'm going to leave this out. I'm going to show you. See this different green? It's a whole different green. And I have 6 or 8 greens. But you see how this one has, maybe it's easier if I hold it this way, has like hints of gold in it. Well, green does have yellow in it. So, this one has some real watercolor effects, too. So, Betty says she's been buying everything she can that's printed on the diagonal. I know, Betty, it's kind of addicting. Okay, so here's a darker green. See how, this is the way I want my dyed fabrics to look. If I want just solid fabrics, I can go to the store and buy them. But I want something that not everybody is going to have, right? So you can see the lights and the shades and the darks, and they blend in beautifully with all kinds of things. So this is a real, this is what I aim for. So let me tell you how I do it. I go outside, and the temperature has to be, pull one more. The temperature has to be warm for this to work. So I generally cut or tear. See those raw edges? That's how you know I've torn fabric. It's got that little frayed edge. Okay, here's one. And I use a lot of greens, and so this has the browns in it. And I use lots of recipes in my dyeing. But the way it works is I take plain white fabric, and I use batik weight, and I buy it by the bolt. So, and then I cut it. And generally, I cut it into fat quarters. And I have to soak it in a solution called soda ash. Once it's all soaked, I pull it out, wring it out, and then I scrunch the fabric like this, very much like this. It's all wet though, so it kind of stays. And I have taken these dry dyes, and there's a proportion and all that, and I mix them with warm water and get that solution very well stirred, and like there are no clumps in it. And then I take a baggie, like a gallon baggie, and I open it up and I slip the whole, oh my gosh, he even has a baggie handy. Thank you, honey. And I slip this this is all white, remember. And I put this in here like that, and then I pour the liquid dye after I've added water in here, and I press all the air out, and see, I have to get all the air out because air will cause it to change colors. And then I leave this for at least 4 hours in the heat, but every 30 minutes I flip it over so that the dyes, go to the bottom, and then I flip it over, and then they go back to the bottom and all that. 4 hours later, I rinse it, and then I have a washing. I have to wash it in some special solution so it'll stop dyeing. So that's how I get this look, this watercolor look, this modeled look. And I have, I've been doing this for years, and for a couple years I sold these. Now I just use it in my collection. Now there's another way to dye, and that way is called ice dye. But let me show y'all something. And I think I've had this chart for 3 years now, and the chart has grown. Look at this. I can't see if I can.
There, right there, perfect.
Except I can't.
Well, I mean, they can see it.
Okay, so all of these are the different. This isn't even all of them. This is an older chart. I bought it I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. All of these you can pick. So this one right here is on here. This bin is Power Berry, and it's this color right here. And this avocado green is right here. So that's what this one is. So I have dozens of them. I've collected over the years, and I use them. And then there are some that I go through a lot. Some basic ones that I use a lot. Turquoise I use a lot because I can mix it with other things to make colors. So it's so much fun to make colors. Y'all know that, right? It's so much fun. So you can, and I have a whole recipe box. Y'all know I don't cook. But I have index cards, and I take a little snip off of an edge, like a selvage edge. I'll take a little snip off, and I'll clip it to the card and write down exactly what I did to get this piece of fabric. So I always have my recipe cards so that I can go back and recreate that if I, run out and need it later. Now let me tell you about what I do for ice dyeing. Doug has built me out in my fairy garden. I call it my fairy garden because my grandchildren named it that. So we call it the fairy garden. In my fairy garden, he has taken 2 stainless steel sinks, just the sinks, and built what is it? You built
Just a box.
No, it's a stand. It's a stand. It's more than a box. I can stand at kitchen height level. It's like a cabinet for them to sit in. And I have one here, and then I have one here. So I have 4 sinks. But the running water is the hose. So I don't have like plumbing out there. I just use the water hose, which works out great. And then it drains. He has it so it'll drain off into the grass down the hill. So what you do when you ice dye is you put a grate of some kind across the sinks to catch the excess. The melting ice is going to fall into the sink. And you take you soak your fabric, and you take your fabric, but generally I do it in terms of a yard, half a yard to a yard, easy. And you soak them, and then you scrunch them, just like I showed you a minute ago. and then you bury it in ice. Well, during Snowvid, I did, hey Mindy, hey Leah, hey Ann. During Snowvid, I buried it in snow. And then what you do is you take these are powders, so you take your powdered dye and you sprinkle dye on top of either the snow in the winter or the ice in the summer. So, out of the 100 times I've done it once with snow. So, if I've done it 100 times, could be easily. But anyway, what happens is the snow or the ice, as it melts, those water rivulets carry the dye into different sections, right? And so this section might be real heavy and this section might be real light. But if I take green, for example, and I do it over here, and then I take yellow and do it over here, you're going to get these fabulous blends of so I'm going to show you a couple of them. Here's one. This one was, just like I said, it was all scrunched up. And I had oranges and pinks. And it was all down in here. And I took it out. After I washed it, look at this. Y'all, I just love this.
It looks good on camera, but it's even better in person.
Do y'all like this? Oh my goodness, I'm so fascinated. So in the green, some of the blue showed up right down here. See this little blue, the hints of blue? Those are little particles that were in the green. And then the pinks, oh gosh, these come out and I just ooh and ah over them. I love what God does when He melts the ice and it disperses all through the fabric. Okay, so here's another one that's a little bit similar, but a little bit different. I'm about to use this one. All of this is leading somewhere, so I'm about to use this one. These are golds and reds. Actually, golds and fuchsias.
Let's see.
Can you see it? Woohoo! Isn't that fun? So the colors are just yummy, and I'm about to use this one. But let me show you what I'm going to use it for. Because you can only dye in the summers. Because the ice has to melt. And in the snow, when we had it in the house, as soon as we got heat back, we did this in a big tub. You can do it that way. And I put grates down. Well, I put stuff under it so it could stand up tall enough so when the melt off was in the bottom, it wouldn't flood each other. And so anyway, I did it. And it worked okay, but I didn't have the kind of fabric I wanted. So it just kind of dyed a little bit differently. So let me take this down. Okay, so I used the small centerpiece of my tool set. So here's my tool set, and here's the centerpiece, and the small window, the inner window. I used it, and I took a little over a yard of fabric, and I drew that little petal, right? I just drew it. And I left myself an inch in between. It doesn't look like an inch, but I had to fold under a 1/4 of an inch, and I had to fold under. It's the same exact technique I use in all. It's reverse applique. And what is behind it, that is and I think I showed this last week, but what's behind it is just a whole one of these. that I had done previously. It's a whole cloth. So this is a double whole cloth, and I finished it. I added a border, and then I quilted it. So it is finished. And I'm going to be teaching this class. I have decided that this is not a pattern, that I would rather teach this as a class. So if anybody is ever interested in, oh, Mindy's showing people my new tool. Thank you, love. If anybody is ever interested in taking this class, I will certainly be more than happy to do that. It would be 2 parts. We'll do it. We can't do it until June, but part 1 will be dyeing your whole cloth fabric to go behind it, and part 2 is preparing the front piece for this thing. You know, the gray, and cutting the holes and getting your pattern like you want it. The coolest part of doing this is if you draw one that's too close to the next one and you do it with a friction pen, you can always erase it and using heat. So that is why I wanted to show you what dyeing was about. If you don't live close to me and you're still interested in doing that, I'm still good with, I travel. Now, I don't want to go traveling somewhere where I have to wear a mask everywhere, but that's going to loosen up, I'm hoping, one of these days. Okay.
Tawny.
Yes. Hey, Tawny. So glad you're here. You should be getting a present from me one of these days. So, she's died with me. So, I know, that's what you say. When you've died with your friend, you know that you're a good friend. So, but it is a good way to use these fabrics. And this was real simple to prepare the outer fabric and then do the behind fabric. So I'm working on a project. I cut it out today. I cut the holes in it today. And it's the same exact technique I use on every single thing. Reverse applique that I do is you cut inside the shape, you know, like toward the center of the shape. And then you snip around the curves and you glue that back to make a finished edge right here. So it's not hard. There were 96 of these petals, and so it took me a little, I don't know, it took me, a couple nights of, you know, like from 7 to 9:30 or 10 or something, couple of nights, but I'm watching TV and I'm answering, you know, text and I don't know what all I'm doing, but you know, it's during my nighttime, so time goes so fast when I'm doing that I don't even think about it. But what I'm doing with this, I cut out today another pattern, and I'll use this as the background fabric. So, headed to Fredericksburg this weekend to quilt shop. Need anything? Probably. Oh, Mindy. No, but I hope you have a good time. Do I need anything? I think a trip to Fredericksburg is what I need, but that's a whole... I was just telling Doug, there's a trip I want to make. He was like, okay. We'll do that one of these days. So before I close, thank y'all for being here. This is... Oh, you did get your present today. Good. I'm so glad. Yeah. So, y'all, a while back I ordered, have you ever done this? Have you ever ordered a jacket on where did I get it? Oh, eBay. I ordered a jacket on eBay. I wanted a denim jacket, right? Just a denim jacket. Because it's denim jacket weather in my world, right? So just a denim jacket. But look what I'm doing. I don't know how to hold it.
That's good.
Okay, I cut holes in it, y'all. And now I'm trying to decide what I want to fill the holes with. I could... do something like this. What do y'all think?
I think red, white, and blue would look good.
So Doug thinks red, white, and blue would look good. I kind of like that.
Red, like that type.
And then it wouldn't match my clothes at all, right? So, hey, Lynn, glad you're here. A gradient color, yeah. So like an ombre sort of thing. I could do that too. And I want to carry it over the shoulder, like up here, and then over the shoulder, like it's peeping down. So anyway, I'm telling you, this whole reverse applique is, it's rocking my world. Okay. Oh, good. Beth likes that. Good. I like that too. I'll have to see if I have more fabric I can do that with. Because, see, that's real easy. I would just cut those little pieces and then stitch them down with my machine, and I'd be ready to go. So, there's nothing to it. Okay, so I'm going to end by reading you a little thing I wrote today and posted today. If you are, I know, Beth, it is addicting. Trust me. So when I first arrived today, I'm going to go backwards. So if you were on the call at the very beginning, I had these 4 blocks last week. Let me move my stuff around. I had these 4 blocks last week all sewn together, all pretty and ready to go. And as I was walking by today, I thought, why don't I snowball? Y'all know what that means, right? Just put another piece of fabric right here. Why don't I snowball these and then it'll make a diamond? So I took the whole thing apart. I'm going to start over. I'm going to snowball the corners. So it is addicting. Everything is, if I got no more ideas, I'd have to live to 120 to finish what I've got going. Seriously. That's if I didn't get ideas. Do y'all know how many ideas I get every day and sketch them out and draw them and put them in my notebook? And it's, my word. Oh my goodness. Okay, so, Lynn, who's your cousin? I'm not your cousin. Who's your cousin? Is Beth your cousin? I know, Mindy. Squirrel. Okay, so I'm going to read my little devotional thing to you today. So if this is not anything you're interested in, if you leave now, please know that I prayed for you today and I hope you have a blessed week. But I'm going to read you with a thing I wrote today called Roses. And it says, off and on in my life, I have sung in choirs. I was in the kids' choir as a child. I was in the girls' choir in high school for 1 year. Someday I'll tell that traumatic story that scarred me and 13 other girls, but not today. After that, I didn't sing in a choir again for decades, literally decades. Deep scars will do that to a person, won't it? Then along came Lance. He was an interim choir director for more than a year at our church, and I trusted him. So I sang in his choir at the church, and it was a blast. We laughed and we sang and we praised the Lord, and he healed more places in my heart than I even realized were still tender. After he left, because he was just an interim and we were looking for our new choir director, it was different. It wasn't bad. It was just different, and I missed Lance. But I continued singing in the church choir. At Christmas that year, we were performing, and we were doing our very last final performance. And one of the songs had a soloist, and we, the choir, joined her during the chorus. And one of the lines was about Christ, and it mentioned the rose of Christmas. And as we were singing, I smelled the strongest scent of roses I've ever smelled in my life. It was as if someone had just sprayed rose scent or rose perfume above me, and it was settling all around me. I was amid the midst of the most heavenly perfume I have ever known. I was looking around for roses, but I saw none. I looked around to see if other people in the choir were smelling it too. Nothing. This beautiful fragrance was so strong that I could not sing. So I prayed, Lord, is that you? No answer. Lord, I smell roses. Is that you? I heard nothing, but my heart began racing, and I felt the presence of the Lord. He was in that choir loft with us as we worshiped him. I could smell him. He smelled like roses. Beautiful, beautiful roses. I will never, ever forget that moment. I had no idea that Christ smells. I had never, ever even thought about it. And it's a beautiful thing. Christ has a smell, and he smells like roses. Well, you probably know I live in Tyler, Texas. But did you know that we are the rose capital of America? Look it up. I'm not kidding. We have a rose festival, a rose queen, a rose garden, and that rose garden has more than 38,000 rose bushes. There are 500 varieties of roses in that garden, and it is the largest rose garden in the United States. You see, this area that I live is well known for 100 years or more for growing roses. That's us. Last Thursday, I had a dream. I was shopping for a new bed. I stopped to look at bedspreads that were hanging like rugs hanging at Home Depot, just hanging on those clips. And as we walked by, I flipped through them. I was looking at them, and there was one with a giant rose in the center of the bedspread. I loved it. I wanted it. I wanted it more than I wanted a new bed. Well, I woke up and I was wondering what that meant. I felt like I was supposed to do something with that dream, and I kept thinking that that was a quilt I was supposed to make. I began sketching it out Friday morning before my friend Connie arrived. And when I opened the front door, as she walked up, you would not believe what I saw. Her t-shirt had the state of Texas on it, and inside the Texas outline, it was filled with roses, almost and very, very similar to the roses I had just been sketching out. The Lord sent confirmation that I was on the right track. Oh, it's so wonderful when He shows us things like that. And they just show up in the strangest of places. So my message, I felt like, was everything is coming up roses. Well, in the Bible, the rose of Sharon refers to the flowers that grow on the flat plain of Sharon. Sharon was a place. The flowers were either a saffron or a crocus, but they also called them roses. And I'm reminded that pleasing aromas are important to the Lord. In Genesis 8:21 and 22, it says, "The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, 'Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease.'" And then if you jump to the New Testament in 2 Corinthians 2:14, it says, "But thanks be to God who always leads us as captives in Christ's triumphal procession and uses us to spread the aroma of the knowledge of him everywhere." Do you hear that? We are to God as Christ, the pleasing aroma, like Christ is. Christ is an aroma, and so are we. So as we move through this week, let us be mindful of how pleasing of an aroma we can be to those around us. I know it's a very different way of thinking about ourselves, but it is interesting to be a pleasing aroma. So amen and amen. So now y'all get to guess this next quilt that I'm making, that I'm going to be using this on, that has, it's not the same, but it's kind of like this. What do you think I'm going to be making? And if you get, my husband's raising his hand. I hope to be able to share with you next week what I've done with this. I hope y'all have a marvelous Monday. If you have any prayer requests, you let me know. If you have any questions, hey, tomorrow is a virtual market. So Houston Marketplace is starts tomorrow, and I am through E.E. Shank. I have a video, and I'll be doing a take and teach, and it's on my new tool. So if you don't have one, let me know. I can get one to you. There are really all kinds of fun things you can do with this. And maybe next week I'll have more finished that I can even show you using this tool. I love you all. Take good care of yourselves. If you have any questions or need me, just let me know. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.